Join me as I dive deep into the Bible to uncover what it really says about women. Let's see if I can find some surprising truths. The Bible is often perceived as a patriarchal book, with men dominating the narrative. But what about the women? How are they represented? Are they relegated to secondary roles, or are they leaders, change-makers, and heroes in their own right? Today, we're going to explore what the Bible really says about women, and I think you'll be surprised at what we find. One of the most common misconceptions about women in the Bible is that they're subservient, meek, and mild. That they're solely relegated to domestic roles, with little agency or autonomy. But is that really the case? Let's look at the evidence. Many people point to the creation story in Genesis, where Eve is created from Adam's rib, and assume that this implies a subordinate role. But what if I told you that the original Hebrew text doesn't necessarily imply subordination, but rather a complementary partnership? Another misconception is that women are marginalized in the Bible, that they're barely mentioned, and when they are, it's only in relation to men. But that's simply not true. Women like Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel are integral to the stories of their husbands, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're not just wives, they're partners, advisors, and even saviors. Take Sarah, for example, who helps Abraham deceive a king to save his life. Or Rebecca, who cleverly manipulates her brother Laban to secure her husband Isaac's inheritance. We also often hear that women are silent or invisible in the Bible, that they're not allowed to speak or participate in religious rituals. But again, that's not entirely accurate. In the book of Exodus, we meet Miriam, Moses' sister, who's a leader in her own right, leading the women of Israel in song and dance to celebrate their deliverance from slavery. And in the New Testament, we have women like Phoebe, a deacon who's commended by Paul, and Eunia, an apostle who's imprisoned for her faith. Lastly, some people assume that women are only valued for their beauty or their ability to produce sons. But that's a gross simplification of the complex and multifaceted portrayals of women in the Bible. Women like Ruth, for example, are celebrated for their loyalty, their compassion, and their bravery. Ruth, a foreigner and a widow, risks everything to stay with her mother-in-law Naomi, and eventually becomes part of the family line of King David. Deborah is one of the most iconic women in the Bible, a judge, a warrior, and a poet. She's not just a token female leader, she's a powerful and wise figure who leads Israel to victory against their enemies. And Mary, the mother of Jesus, is no gentle, submissive maiden, she's a courageous and determined woman who risks everything to bear and raise the Son of God. Ruth's story, in particular, has always fascinated me. Here's a woman who's foreign, widowed, and childless, 3 strikes against her in ancient Israelite society. Yet, she's a shining example of faith, perseverance, and loyalty. And her story has had a profound impact on the biblical narrative, shaping the trajectory of the Israelites and ultimately, the coming of Jesus. The stories of these women, and many more like them, have always challenged me to rethink my assumptions about gender roles and biblical interpretation. They're leaders, rebels, and game-changers who defy traditional stereotypes and expectations. They're not just supporting characters, they're the protagonists of their own stories, shaping the course of history with their courage, wisdom, and determination. So what does the Bible really say about women? It says they're capable, strong, and vital to the story of faith. It says they're leaders, innovators, and heroes who've left an indelible mark on the biblical narrative. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the Bible to explore what it really says about women. If you want to share your thoughts on your favorite women in the Bible, please leave a comment below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more videos on biblical themes and their impact on our lives today. See you in the next video.